Nicholas Gambardella, Culminating Experience 2. It's been a pleasure working with Nick for the last two terms. He's extremely talented young man and very versatile too. Not just writing to picture, but he's got some music for games that he's done, and actually put together a little game demo using FMOD and things like that. So without further ado, welcome Nik Gambardella to his Culminating Experience final walk through the tunnel to the light at the other end.
Thank
Okay.
you very much. All right, I'm gonna get right started. Let me share my screen. Where I have the presentation loaded. All right, so here's. Does everybody see that just fine? Perfect. All right. So hello everyone. Thank you for all who have joined. This is my culminating experience in film scoring. And like George said, there's a bunch of examples aside from just film scoring. There's some video game scoring, and we'll get into a bunch of that in just a moment. Before I talk about the specific examples, I want to kind of outline based off of just everything so far, the year that I did with this master's program and also my 4 years on campus at Berklee. I feel like I've kind of been able to classify every skill that you need into four different elements. So I would say these are the four fundamental things you have to be good at in order to survive in a work in media scoring. So the first obvious thing, this is the price of admission, is that you need to have the creative skills. So as any kind of composer, you need to have skills in composition, orchestration. If you're doing any electronic music, there's a whole set of skills that you need to know there as well. For film, there's it's a whole different way of thinking. You're thinking of telling a story through your music and writing themes for characters. Also, synchronization to picture. So there's a whole set of skills you need to know there. When you're doing video game music, it's functional in a very different way. So you need to write music that's interactive and that can adapt over time based off of parameters in the game. So there's a lot of things you need to know there. So that's the baseline work. That's the obvious thing. The next thing you need to know is the technology. Especially nowadays, you need to have the technology skills in order to survive the various media markets. So if have a DAW of choice. For me personally, I use Logic Pro. For a notation software, I use Sibelius. Knowing Pro Tools is really good. I still feel like I could always learn more about Pro Tools, but just because it's an industry standard, it's good to be able to scratch the surface at a decent amount, knowing that for recording and mixing purposes. Tech is really important when it comes to video game music, knowing audio middleware. I really got to know, I've used Wise in the past, but I really got to know FMOD during this culminating experience. And then also it doesn't hurt to know just a bare bit of your way around a game engine and just to help you understand how a game runs in any sort of game engine, whether it's Unity or Unreal. It's definitely important. Not absolutely essential because you're the composer, but it definitely helps the more you do know. So the third thing is just the business skills. This is the sort of thing that really applies to any field of work that you're in. You need to turn anything you do, whatever your job is, into something that's marketable. And also, when you're working in media scoring, there's a different hierarchy because you're working in a collaborative process. Whether it's a film or a video game, you need to understand how that hierarchy works and where you fit into the schematic of everything that happens in a project. It's different between film and than it is to a game. So you need to know the differences in terms of where you sit in that hierarchy. And even though you're not the main person in charge of the entire project, it's very important to listen, but still throw your own ideas out there and just read the room, read the team of people that you're working with, and have those fundamental skills as well. And then the last thing, which I actually originally had three fundamentals, but then I added this fourth because I feel like it's still really worth mentioning, is that if you're going to do any sort of work in media scoring, I feel like it's only worth it if you're all in, if you're passionate. And that doesn't mean that you have to be enjoying every single second of it. Of course, there are days that you might not want to write any music, but just in the long run, you keep finding reasons to do this, not just for yourself, but for other people as well. Who is this going to be relevant to? Why are you doing this, and how is it going to affect other work? And on top of that, just be a fan. Just nerd out to the best of your ability, be a fan of things because it really ignites your spark when you're doing your own work. So going into the specific examples of what I did, so I did various things. I wanted to go for a very versatile set of portfolio examples. So I did an original short film that I scored this past July, a movie scene and a TV show scene. That's a rescore, also a rescore of a commercial and a movie trailer, and then the two video game examples at the end. So the why as to why I did all this and stepped my toes into various markets was that it's just that in the future I want to be able to say yes when offered any sort of a role. And so if I'm offered a role in a video game score, there's a very specific set of skills that I need to have. So making sure that I've practiced that and that I'm able to say yes when that time comes is extremely valuable. So that's why I did more than just one thing. Who is this relevant to? Anybody on a film team? Anybody on a game team, people in advertising, if I'm scoring a commercial, anybody involved in that company that I'm advertising for, this is important to them, of course, that their company is being represented in a way that is complimentary, and also, of course, other composers and musicians, anybody music related. Of course, this is relevant to. That's, I would say, the most obvious group of people. So getting to the fun part. So the first example that I did, so this past July, I scored a short film called A Traveler's Guide to Tomorrow. So what is it? What is the short film about? So it's a dedication to Disney World's Tomorrowland. It's a fan-made tribute to the area of Tomorrowland in Disney World. And it was made entirely by people who worked in Disney World, cast members specifically from the Tomorrowland area, including me. I was a cast member at Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin. So I worked there for about a year. I finished not too far ago. It was this past January. So I was still working on it early this year, working there. And I remember one of my last days there, Alex Levitt, who made this short film, by the way, she approached me saying that she had a plan for this project that she was planning on doing at some point in the next few months. And she asked me to do the music since she was only getting cast members to do the work. And of course, I was the only film composer that worked there. So I mean, as far as I know, I don't think there's anybody else that was also a film composer that worked there. But so she asked me to do the music, and I said, of course, yes, I'd love to do the music. I'd like to also note that the film is actually currently unlisted because it's not in the Disney IP. So she's still fighting to get it approved. So right now it's only available to people who have the link. So I'll send you guys the link to join in just a moment once I've finished going over this. So the plot of the short film is a traveler from the past stumbles upon a Jubilee celebration in a dazzling new world and embarks on a journey through its iconic sites. That dazzling new world is, of course, the world of Tomorrowland. And so musically, what I wanted to do, because there's existing material that I was able to borrow ideas from, I did work off of what people are used to hearing when they walk through Tomorrowland, which is a lot of electronic stuff. So I did want to have that familiar sound palette intertwined since there's already an established sound, but I also wanted to give it this film score cliche quality to it and dig into the Hollywood-esque vibes musically, and so you'll get a little bit of both when you listen to that score. And also I want to add one more thing before we watch it. This specific score is actually on all streaming platforms, the music isolated from the film. So it's called, same title, A Traveler's Guide to Tomorrow. So you can go listen to that, add that to your Spotify or Apple Music or whatever you use. All right, so that was the first example. One thing I did forget to mention as well before is that Disney, I would say, is definitely my number one source of inspiration for really any of the work I do. I was in Magic Kingdom when I realized I wanted to become a composer, so there's a lot of sentimental attachment that I have to Disney. So I just want to point that out before I go to the next example. So that was that short film. So the next thing I did, I picked a movie scene. The scene I picked was from The Incredibles. The scene I picked actually was a scene that I had rescored like maybe 7 or 8 years ago. I was in high school at the time when I did that. I just like it was a little fan made practice project. And of course, this time around, I had a whole different mindset because of all the things that I've learned in the years since I first scored that. I think this was one of the first ever scores I ever practiced scoring with. So for before we get into that, I'm sure we all know what The Incredibles is. It's a Pixar film, animated film made in 2004. And the plot of the film is while trying to lead a quiet suburban life, a family of undercover superheroes are forced into action to save the world. One of the things that I've noticed in a lot of Pixar scores, especially this one, is that there's a lot of really complicated material in the music, and this is definitely, a lot of large scale stuff. If you look at the original soundtrack, the original score, so I would say compositionally, this is definitely the most complicated to put together. Not just because it's very large scale with a lot of big orchestral ideas, but also because it's a very fast moving scene. It's a chase scene. It's the scene where Dash is getting chased by all those enemies, and then he ends up running on the water. So that's there's a lot that I had to focus on there to make sure all the little nitpicks lined up the way I needed it to. And also there's some jazz influences. I didn't want to step on Michael Giacchino's toes, but I did want to it's kind of burned into the DNA of The Incredibles, so I did want to I kind of felt like I kind of had to do that at least a little bit. And the other point that I want to make is that sync points are crucial. This, like I said, it's a chase scene. It's a very fast moving scene. The energy and the tension is constantly evolving. So I wanted to make sure that all the changes that I made throughout line up with the changes on screen, and make sure that if there's a specific impact as well, that I want to make sure that there's a musical impact that synchronizes to the pictures to what's happening in the visuals. And there's a lot of that. So it's always moving. It's extremely fast paced. So I would say this is in a lot of ways, other than just the fact that it's the highest number of instruments, the most difficult score that I wrote for the Culminating experience.
Dash, remember what Mom said?
What? Hey, stop talking. Hold it! Freeze!
Dash, run! What? Run!
They're shooting! Get the boy! Show yourself!
All right. So that was that one. That was The Incredibles. So that was the movie scene I picked. So the next one is a scene from a TV show. If you've known me for a long time, I'm sure you're not surprised. The Walking Dead has been my favorite show for years, so I figured why not pick a scene from it to do a rescore for. So for those of you who don't know anything about the show, it's well, you could probably tell just by the title that it's a zombie apocalypse series. It was based off of a graphic novel series. And the show ended like a few years ago, but they're still doing like spin-off shows and there's a bunch of video games being made. So it's kind of just evolved into a franchise. And so the series plot, the official plot, is that Sheriff's Deputy Rick Grimes wakes up from a coma to learn that the world is in ruins and must lead a group of survivors to stay alive. The irony is Rick actually isn't in the scene at all. That's not a spoiler. He's not dead. I just want to preface that. The plot, so the episode is a season 9 episode. And the official plot for that episode is the 4 communities come together in celebration at the Kingdom's Fair, but while some packs are renewed, others come at a much steeper price. So, for context, what's going on is there's a trade fair happening at one of the communities, and they're basically renewing their alliance by putting it in writing. They literally sign like a peace treaty, it like looks like the Declaration of Independence. And while this is happening, there's also a very dangerous group. They call themselves the Whisperers and zombies, actual people instead of zombies. And so this group of people, the group has to make a deal with the Whisperers, but that deal, of course, comes at a price, and that price is revealed in the scene that we're about to watch. So content warning, because it's not an easy scene to look at, and also major spoiler warning. It's all the way down in season 9. So if you're in the middle watching it, I don't recommend watching this scene. Musically, what I wanted to do, because I've watched this show several times, so I'm kind of used to just the nature of the music, what it is. It's kind of, burned into my psyche as a viewer. So I wasn't struggling in that sense. I knew what I wanted to do stylistically. But in terms of, picking apart the scene and what makes it different from any other scene and focusing on the content itself, I wanted the first half, the reveal, to be more focused on just how dark and ethereal and terrifying the situation is, by using a bunch of extended techniques and focus more on the sonic quality. I actually I sampled the sound of 2 knives scraping against each other, so you'll hear some of that, more of that quality in that first half, and then the second half is focused on just the devastation of everything. It's a very emotional scene, so focusing just on sounding more musical. Of course, there's some tension in the harmonies as well, but sounding more musical and less like just like extended technique, sonic textures in the background. It's also a scene. I mean, this show, I would say in general, it's a show that focuses less on. And of course, it focuses on the horror of it all because it has to, but it focuses even more on just the characters and those character analysis. I actually watched a video essay about Breaking Bad recently, and it was one of the things that was said in the video essay was a good show is fun to watch, but a great show rewards you for watching over and over again and catching all the layers of depth in a story. And this is one of those shows that has a lot of hidden gems. So, and part of those hidden gems is just the intricacy in the writing for the characters. So I want to really bring out just the emphasis on how much this situation. Oh, sorry, I had a little glitch there. I have to with the presentation. I wanted to focus more on the just how important the character situation is, them reacting to the situation, rather than how terrifying it is. So you'll hear that in the second half.
Sadiq! What happened?
seen Frankie?
Have you seen Addie and Rodney? They're supposed to meet me here.
If you happen to see her, could you tell her I need to speak with her?
I gotta talk to her.
You have to see this.
My
Yeah.
mom was here. She's gone, but I can't find Henry.
No! No!
Just look at me. Just look at me.
All right. So that scene. So those were the movie and TV show scenes that I picked. The next two are going to be a commercial and a trailer. So for the commercial, I picked. You can all see this, by the way, right? I didn't when I changed my perfect. Since I changed my settings, I just wanted to make sure. So the commercial I picked, it was a commercial for Co-Operative Bank. So pretty standard commercial. It's only 30 seconds. Nothing too unique about it. I did a commercial in the past, but it was very different than this one. So this one I had to score it in a very different way. Co-Operative Bank, it's a British retail and commercial bank based in Manchester, England. And so, generally speaking, what's the goal when scoring a commercial? The obvious goal is that you want people to be invested in what is ever being advertised, and that's really the baseline understanding you could have when before you score a commercial. Create a vibe. This is a very with any commercial, you want to create a sound that's associated with that company. So something that, like I said earlier, I think I mentioned this earlier, something that's complementary to what's being advertised, especially if there's going to be multiple commercials for it. Same applies to if you're doing a jingle. I didn't really do like a jingle in this case. It's kind of just like a standard 30-second commercial. But for this commercial, when I rescored it, so when I did my first iteration of it, some of the feedback that I got from George was that the vibe was right on the money, but in terms of just how everything synced up, I was focusing too hard on sync points, and I was kind of treating it the way I did The Incredibles, where I was like making sure that certain beats land on certain frames. This is only a 30-second commercial, and it's not really about sync points. The nature of this kind of commercial, it's more focused on creating a vibe as long as it starts and ends in the right place. And so I think I hope I created a vibe that feels like Co-op Bank in a way. Something that I literally know nothing about. To me, it's just kind of just a standard bank commercial.
It's hard to be good.
Tea, anyone?
But it's good when we try. I'll take them. And when we cooperate with others to get things done, it feels really good. So why not bank with someone who shares that commitment? The Co-Operative Bank, for people with purpose.
All right, so that was the shortest example, for sure, out of all the ones on this list. So moving off of Cooperative Bank, so like I said, I did a movie trailer as well. The trailer I picked, I came across a version of the trailer to Scoob that didn't have any music, so I picked that one. So Scoob, of course, is installment of Scooby-Doo that came out in 2020. It's an animated version and pretty straightforward in terms of what I had to do here. So the plot of the movie is Scooby and the gang face their most challenging mystery ever, a plot to unleash the ghost dog Cerberus upon the worlds. As they race to stop this dog apocalypse, the gang discovers that Scooby has an epic destiny greater than anyone imagines. So, same, I'm going to ask a similar question to what I did last time. What's the goal when scoring a movie trailer? So, the obvious goal is that you want to sell the film. You want people to watch the trailer and then want to go see the full film afterwards. Another thing also, too, similar to a commercial, you want to create a vibe that fits. So, if I were to score like a Harry Potter movie, it would be completely different than, the trailer of this movie, of course. So I wanted to create aesthetically what I chose for my, stylistic choices is that I wanted to, there's a bit of an orchestral template, but I also wanted to focus more on like electronic pop. So there's moments where it's the orchestra, and then there's moments where it's kind of just like a simple chord progression and like electronic pop vibe with basic chords. Something very simplistic, since that's what the movie is. It's a very simple movie to understand. And also another thing I noticed, generally speaking, every trailer has a different momentum to it. I've watched enough trailers that this sort of idea kind of just comes with instinct of how trailers behave. And so when I watched this particular trailer for the first time, and thinking about what I wanted to do in the score, there were moments where the characters were telling jokes. And so in those moments, and some other moments as well, I felt it was necessary to not really have music for a few seconds. And so I only score it when it's absolutely necessary, just to give some some bounce to the momentum of the entire trailer, to make it more interesting, especially because it's so lighthearted.
Oh, it's about to start. You ready?
Ready.
Popcorn?
Butter.
Nachos?
Cheese.
Root beer with red licorice straw?
Right here. Maybe it's time we made our new movie.
Good idea, Scoob. But first we need a trailer. Oh, can you do the trailer guy voice?
Well, let me give it a shot. In a world destroyed by evil, discover the epic origin story of the greatest team of heroes in a history of mystery. Hey, not bad.
Nailed it! Hey! This mangy stray's coming with me.
He's not a stray.
Okay, then. What's his name?
His name's Scooby.
Middle name?
Doobie?
Last name?
Do.
I love it. I'll never take it off. Maybe don't do that again.
I'm Fred. This is Velma.
Hi.
And that's Daphne.
Hey, I'm Shaggy, and this is Scooby-Doo.
Nice to meet you.
Trick or treat.
Whoa. Shaggy and Scooby were taken?
Do you realize where we are?
No.
Look around, man. The clean, modern aesthetic, the cool blue color palette. We're in
IKEA.
the Falcon Fury. Did you say IKEA?
Nope, I said Falcon Fury, just like you.
Maybe this can lead us to Scooby and Shaggy. Trace amounts of mustache oil, 12-year-old scotch.
Ugh, is the bad guy my dad?
All right, so that was the movie trailer. So the last two examples are the two video game examples. So For the first one, I wanted to focus more on the technical process and when making a game score, and the second one is a more creative focused video game example. So when you're working in video games, I just want to preface all of this by saying when you're working in video games, it functions, like I said before, it functions very differently than when you're doing a film score. Because when you're doing a game score, you're not writing in a linear sense where there's a beginning and an end, the way that film is, timed. When you're writing video game music, you're dealing with loops and transitions, and everything has to have a dynamic quality to it in terms of how it's set up. And so that affects how you write the music, of course. So that's the first thing to understand. So in terms of the softwares used when I put this first demo example together, is I used Logic Pro as my DIW, and then of course FMOD and Unity for the middleware and game engine. So when working in, by the way, the game that I chose is a Unity sample. It's a first-person shooter microgame, and so because I was working in a very simple, short demo, I didn't really need to have too many audio assets, so I made it as one music event in FMOD, and out came really 4 audio exports. So the assets were a pre-battle loop, a battle loop, a layering parameter for low player health, and then a lead synth, which only plays in the second battle. So the techniques involved were vertical layering. So vertical layering is basically, to explain this best, I'm going to give you the example that I used here. So if you look at the picture at the bottom left, you can see a health bar, and that health bar tells you, of course, how much health how healthy the character is, whether you're at full health or low health. And so in terms of vertical layering, what I wanted to do was, as the player's health gets lower, I wanted the intensity in the music to increase. So obviously at full health, you won't hear this extra parameter, this extra audio. That really just like one synth wobble, that just adds some tension to the entirety of it. And then as it gets lower, you hear it gets louder and louder. So that's vertical layering. Horizontal resequencing, instead of thinking up and down, you're thinking left and right. So how the music is going to transition from one state to another. And so some examples of this, and by the way, also transitioning in a way that's very seamless. So, in terms of time quantization, making sure that it transitions on a beat, and also crossfades is another way to make, smooth out those transitions. So for example, in this example that I did here, as the player enters the battle rooms, so between the first room that you're in and the room that you enter when the battle starts, the music will change, of course. And then also when the enemies are destroyed, the music will become less intense once the enemies are destroyed. So in the example, by the way, in the video I'm about to send, it's not just a showcase showing you the example itself. It's also I'm showing you the technical process in FMOD and Unity, so you'll see some of those setups for the first 2 minutes of the clip. Video game music is almost always dynamic and utilizes an untraditional structure of musical ideas. Music in games typically changes over time in response to the player's movements and choices. I wanted to practice implementing and integrating this type of dynamic music using 3 software. Logic Pro as my DIW for writing the music, FMOD Studio for the audio middleware, and Unity for the game engine itself. For the game itself, I pulled one of Unity Engine's learning microgames as a canvas to practice this method of scoring. The microgame has 4 different game states: pre-battle 1, battle 1, pre-battle 2, and battle 2. As you can see here, the music was written entirely in Logic Pro. So now let's take that music into FMOD. You can see the 4 game states separated on a single event timeline in my FMOD project. I kept the pre-battle loops completely identical as shown here. However, for the battle loops, I wanted the second enemy music to be more intense than the first, which is why I added a synth lead on top exclusively for the second battle to make it feel more intense. I've also added an extra layer assigned to the player's health, which I labeled low HP. Notice that as the player's health decreases, the layer for low HP gets louder. Above the audio tracks themselves, you can see 4 different markings across the timeline. The top left shows the tempo and time signature of the music. The gray markers tell us which section of the music is being played. The blue regions here are loop regions, which show us the start and end points of the audio loops. And the green regions are for transitions from one section of the music to another. Notice how the transition regions have quantization markings to tell us which beats the music will transition from, which ensures a smooth and seamless transition, making it more subtle to the player that the music is changing. changing. Also notice the circles on some of the regions, which are indicator symbols for crossfades, which also adds subtlety to loops and transitions. The 3 parameters we are dealing with are HP for player health, game state for transition between sections, and game end, which stops the music when the game ends. Now that we have the FMOD event, integrating the FMOD bank into the engine is the trickiest step. Notice how I added the FMOD Studio Listener component to the main camera, allowing us to hear the music from the FMOD project. I had to add 3 things into the Unity project: a master audio listener that selects the bank and music event through the bank loader and event emitter components, and 2 invisible boxes so that the music changes when the player walks through them. The enemy prefabs have FMOD Studio global parameter triggers assigned to them so that the music changes when the enemies are destroyed. Now that I've explained the process, let's see the final result. All right, so that was the technical example, and I did that mainly because, and I think it's really important just to know how an engine runs and having that technical understanding of it all, even if you don't know it to the fullest, the way a developer would. So the next example, so is the creative example, and I did want to preface this next showcase just by talking about just the creative community surrounding the world of video games, and how a lot of games, as written on the page, have level editors, there's sandbox games, and mods just to allow room for customization in one's playing experience. So there are a ton of games that have level editors and things like this. So what I wanted to do before I even get into what I did, I wanted to pick one of these games, customize some, make some sort of a thing, in a level editor, and then write the music to it, of course. So some examples of games that do this: Mario Maker is, I would say, the most well-known one because Mario is, everybody knows Mario. Basically, it's just a Mario level maker. You just make Mario levels. There's no coding involved. You just drag and drop, and everything works the way it should. Geometry Dash, similar interface where you drag and drop assets. It's more advanced in a lot of ways because there's a lot of technical setups. I've heard people refer to this editor as like a micro game engine. So it's very interesting in that way. There's a lot you could do there. Minecraft is a sandbox game. So, in creative mode, you could build whatever you want. And I've, seen people writing, custom music to go along with their creations. One of my favorite examples, there's a team of people that rebuilt all of Disney World in Minecraft, which is really, really neat. And of course, they have an audio system, so that way you're hearing the music as you would if you're going to walk through the park. So that's really neat. Portal 2 is full of test chambers as the puzzles in the game, and you can make your own. Gary's Mod is a physics sandbox made by Valve. The company Valve basically said, here's all of our tools that we use, take it and make whatever you want. Planet Coaster, you can build and design your own theme parks and rides, and I think there's a really cool music system as well. If I'm not mistaken, I think you could just import any audio file and then share it. And then Sonic Mania, I wanted to end with Sonic Mania because Sonic Mania doesn't have a built-in level editor. You actually have to go out of your way to install a third-party mod. I didn't know about this. A friend of mine told me about this. It's called Maniac Editor. And so this just goes into the discussion of just modding, where people will take an existing game and they'll change the files of the game in some way, and or just add things to it, or just flip it on its head entirely, and it becomes this own customized version of the game. And so what's really important about this, one of my favorite examples, is the guy who made the Stanley Parable. Before they turned it into an original game, they made it as a mod to Half-Life 2. And it was so good and so original that it just became its own game. They just remade it as an original game. And so why am I talking about all of this? Is because, like I said, a lot of these have custom audio systems where you can import your own custom music. So, like I said, I thought it'd be a really good idea to be creative in more than just musical ways and make my own builds and put my own music to it, and and also just as a way to create a template for myself to practice video game scoring. In a very customizable way. So I picked Geometry Dash is the game that I picked. I've been playing this game for years. So I've messed around in this level editor. So I know where all the buttons are. And like I said, it's very advanced, the editor. So basically the game, it's a 2D platformer game. It was originally just a mobile game for iOS and Android, and then they also added it to Steam. It's made by one person, by the way, Robert Topola. Made the entire thing by himself, and over the years he's been updating it, adding new features and new levels, and there's been like spin-off games. But I would say the point, the reason that it's so successful is because it has this extremely advanced level editor. He gives you all these tools to do whatever you want using the features in the game. And like I said, people call it a micro game engine because it's so advanced and there's so much customization you can do to it and to build your own stuff. I've seen some amazing builds way beyond what I'm able to do with it. And I've been playing this for a while. So, I would say mine are better than most, but there's definitely a lot of people out there who have made some really amazing builds. But most importantly, there's a custom music system. Actually, more than one custom music system. The one that I use when I'm using my own music is newgrounds.com. So since I'm a whitelisted artist on Newgrounds, I can import my own music that I upload and use it in the game. And when people go ahead and play my level, they just click a download button at the bottom, all one download button, and then all of the audio assets, including my music, will be imported for them to hear when they play. So the level I made, it's called Chilly Tunnels. It's a platformer game mode. Platformer is one of the 2 game modes in the game. I put the level ID here in case anybody has the game and wants to play it and hear my music. The description for the level is: enter the cold sewers for a daring escape mission. Also watch your back. Like I said, I had a lot of fun, not just writing the music for it, but also creating, all the game mechanics, all the designs. And it allowed me to be creative in a lot of different ways. So what I wanted to do musically was use the same, techniques of creating loops and vertical layering and horizontal resequencing that I did in the previous example. But of course, there's a whole different game. So I stylistically, took it in a different direction. So I used those techniques. There's a couple other techniques that I did. So I did some proximity-based music. So I actually had it so that it looked like music was coming out of a radio, and as you get closer to the music, the louder the music becomes. And then also there's a synchronized boss fight. So the picture that you see on the right is from a boss fight section that I did. So I wrote music, rhythmically synced music for that sequence, which was really fun.
Welcome.
All right, so that was the last example. And before I go to Q&A, I just want to say thank you to really anybody who joined this who took the time to listen to what I had to share. Thank you to George for just being a great instructor and giving me such amazing feedback. I'll really miss our weekly meetings. And also thank you to Allison for putting this all together. Q&A time.
Yeah, questions, comments. Everybody's stunned.
I just wanted to say really nicely done. I'm impressed by just like how much you did. I feel like that's reflective of, sometimes how it is for real, where you're just like juggling so many different random projects and you're like, they have nothing to do with each other. So that's great practice,
Great.
but you did a nice job.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I wanted to say congrats as well. I had one question. So yesterday, one of the Culminating Experience presentations, there was somebody who had also sort of rescored the same scene twice, like once a few years ago, and then like did it for the Culminating Experience and had like a kind of before and after. So have you gone back and listened to your
I did, yeah. I was actually thinking about like posting a video on YouTube, just being like, I scored this years ago, here's
Right.
that version, and here's how far I've come since then, and showing the new version. So I went back and listened to it, but I'd love to post kind of like a before and after thing on YouTube at some point.
I think it would be interesting. So yeah, if you
Yeah.
want to send me a link.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else? Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and thank you, Nik, for a wonderful presentation, and also just a lot of fun that you gave me over the last couple semesters working with you and watching you evolve, and I have a lot of high opinions, not of your ability, but I think your future in terms of possibilities of gainful employment as it evolves. so bravo and congratulations. But I get to see you 2 more times before the semester's over. So.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Take care, everybody, and happy holidays.